Hello everyone, and we're continuing our series on conventional and battle armor infantry for BattleTech.
Yes.
And in this one we're going to talk about how conventional infantry actually do combat.
Yes. We will cover infantry combat. Ready?
Yes.
Swoosh.
Alright, so we've figured out that infantry, depending on what type they are, can be quite fast.
But can be quite slow.
Yeah.
Are generally quite slow.
Yeah. But that's based on the sort of weapons that they have. So
and the type of infantry that you choose.
That's right.
Some of them can be quite mobile, but some of them, I think the vast majority of standard infantry is pretty much a static force.
Yeah, no, that's right. But how do they actually fare on the battlefield? Like, how do they take damage? How do they deal damage?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about like some specialist units later on, but for this one, we're just out of the Total Warfare book.
Yeah.
Right.
So on 214 we have infantry combat, and there's a few things that apply to all infantry, which they use infantry to mean standard platoons, mechanized platoons, battle armor, everything, right? Unless they specify, it means all of them.
Yeah.
Right? So there's some rules that apply to pretty much all infantry. So all types of infantry have a 360-degree arc of fire and may fire at units occupying the same hex. When determining damage, assume such attacks strike from the front.
Okay.
So normally you wouldn't be able to shoot at something that's in the same hex as you.
No.
Which is a thing.
Which is very useful, because if you get right up there into a mech or a vehicle, that's it.
But especially mechs.
I think you can actually have, for stacking purposes, up to four infantry bases or something. It's
something like that.
Yeah. So that could be that'd be a busy hex, wouldn't it? Far out.
The other one is infantry units never add their attacker movement modifiers to their 2 hit numbers.
Yes, that's good.
So no matter how fast your infantry is, they're not going to get a penalty for moving that fast to their shooting. Okay,
so that's nice. So you've got those. We're talking in the movement of the hover rifle, ballistic or energy
with a 5 move.
5 move, and they don't have to pay any penalty for moving that fast. Fantastic.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The other thing is weapons and equipment. So there is a big section on weapons and equipment there. You have to use those rules for the different pieces of equipment.
Yep.
90% of them are just a weapon, or you can get tag that infantry use, you can get field guns, you can get all sorts of stuff. But you go through that and you make sure that you're using the rules and specifications for the piece of equipment that you've given the infantry that you're using.
Yep.
That's basically all they're trying to tell you there.
Yep. But for simplicity's sake, there is a range, sort of a variety of weapons. So not too many. So rifles, machine guns, SRMs, LRMs, flamers, I think, are in there too.
Yeah.
Flamers, of course, would be... Well, we've already talked about flamers and pulse weapons and things like that, and how they do damage. We've mentioned infantry in there. Poor things, they get... There's certain situations they can take a lot of...
We're probably going to hear about how badly infantry do again in just a second, actually. But we should probably look at how they deal damage to other people, hey?
Definitely.
Yeah, because this is something that we've missed out so far.
We want to know.
Yeah. So this is for conventional infantry only. So you've got foot, motorized, jump, and mechanized. Some of them are slightly different, but these are all conventional infantry units. Okay, so I guess attacks. Let's have a look.
Yep.
They use the same range modifiers as mechs and vehicles. Unlike those units, infantry can attack another unit in the same hex. They have a range modifier table on page 215. We can bing that up. Yeah,
so conventional infantry range modifier table. Now I mentioned they use SRMs and LRMs and things like that. They're not quite the same. So the ranges of those things are not the same.
They're not exactly the same type of thing that you get with a mech, or even in a vehicle
or whatever. Yeah.
So they'll have some different things about them. I think they still do basically the same sort of stuff. They're just like infantry versions.
It's just an infantry version of it. So they've given it a classification, but it's a bit different. So if you have a look here, range goes from 0, so obviously if you're in the same hex, and they do actually get bonuses.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. So if you've got like rifle or machine guns, you get a -2.
For being in the same hex as the same hex,
yep. And then SRM, LRM, and Flamers get a -1.
Yeah.
So the LRM minimum range for in a sphere and all that sort of thing, that doesn't apply.
No.
When they talk about the LRM, it's just basically got a longer range for its standard weapon, out to 9 hexes, which is really nice.
Yeah, 7, 8, and 9 hexes there, you're getting a +4 to your shooting, so that's not awesome. But not having a minimum range, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can imagine, like, we'll look at the BV value of these things, but they're not expensive. So you can, you can beef them up a bit with their gunnery if you really want to.
Yeah. So you can only attack a single target with your infantry platoon.
With conventional infantry, they can't split their fire or damage or all that sort of thing. It's all
each platoon can only target one thing. And there's a few little rules with how they deal damage. So I suppose we should just go through those.
Yeah.
There is a table, I'm pretty sure. Yes. So page 216. Generic conventional infantry damage table.
There you go.
Bing.
The tables are good.
There's lots of table binging. Alright, so the amount of damage that a standard infantry platoon can inflict is based on its current number of troopers and the type of weapons with which it is armed, modified by a roll on the cluster hits table. So basically what you're doing is you're making your attack roll. If you manage it, you roll on your cluster hit table with the number of active troopers as the column.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you've got 28 dudes in your platoon and you're firing rifles, ballistic rifles, then you're rolling on the 28 column for that.
Yep.
After determining the appropriate column, the controlling player rolls 2d6 and consults the cluster hit table to determine how many troopers actually struck. Right, so it's similar to a missile hit. So you work out whether you've hit, then you work out how many of them hit. The player then cross-references the number of troopers that struck the target with the appropriate maximum weapon damage per platoon type on the generic conventional infantry table to determine the actual damage dealt to the target.
Yeah. And I think that's applied in 2-point
It's
groups.
always in 2-point value
groups.
groupings.
Yeah.
It actually says it on the table there, and it says it on your platoon doodahs as well.
Well, that's helpful. On the record sheets and things like that.
Yeah, so you have a maximum weapon damage. So the number of troopers, let's say we've got 28 rifle ballistics. Our maximum weapon damage per platoon type is 15. So we'd roll against the 28 table.
Yep.
And we'd come up with, say, 15 dudes hit. You go to 15. You say, okay, the maximum damage they can do is 8. Yes. It's also on the record sheet. So then you divide that into 2-point groupings, which would be 4. And you roll a location for each one.
Still pretty good.
It's still pretty good.
I mean, if you... Yeah, I mean, that's just like a basic little pop gun, I guess you could call it, versus, versus like a mech or whatever it is. But
a dude with an assault rifle and taking on a mech.
A big thing, yeah.
But yeah, if you've got 28 of them, you can potentially do 15 points of damage split into 2-point groupings.
Yeah.
Which is like 7 2s and a 1. Now that's 7 potential locations. That's 7 chances to get a double 1 or a double 6. And they still do criticals and things like that.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. Yeah, it's
you
still
know,
everything.
It's not nothing.
So the machine gun is interesting because if a unit with a machine gun attacks another conventional infantry, they actually add an additional 1d6 of damage.
Yeah.
Because it's a machine gun.
Because it's machine gun.
You know.
I wonder what the machine gun... Oh, the machine gun.
The range isn't that great.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like a basic sort of ballistic rifle.
And they do slightly more damage than standard rifle.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that would be an obvious thing.
No, you'll be BV wise, you'll be paying a little bit extra for it, but again, that's neither here nor there.
So 2 hit modifiers generated by basic improved prototype and standard stealth armor systems have no effect on conventional infantry.
Yeah, because they can see you. You're right there. They're not looking at a screen or whatever, a target or a It's like, there you are.
There you are.
And you're really big to a little infantryman, so chances are, yeah.
2 hit modifiers from hermetic armor and camo systems do apply. So the hermetic armor, I think, is the one that makes you, like, gives you the view of the thing behind you. So
that's right, yeah.
And the camo systems apply because they just make it harder for you to see.
That's the old word of Blake and stuff with their fancy tech.
But the stealth armor, no effect.
What I do like, because I'm not sure if we mentioned it yet, but because they don't have a facing, when it comes to shooting at multiple targets later on, like this is a conventional because they can't split.
Yeah.
But I think it's like battle armor or things like that. If they have multiple
battle
weapons,
armor can, yeah.
Yeah, they don't suffer the
modifier for multiple targets, yeah.
Oh, that's yum.
Which is cool. They can potentially do quite a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah.
28 machine gun troopers is 16 points. Potentially. Again, you have to hit, then you have to roll your cluster table. The number that you roll on your cluster table is your potential damage. So for a 28, you have to get like a full cluster roll in order to do that level of damage.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you're going to be getting a 7 or an 8 maybe. 28 here, so if you want to get full listing, you have to get 11 or a 12. A 9 or a 10 gets you 23 of them. And then from, 5 up to 8 is 17. So between 5 and 8 is probably where you're going to average out. So you're going to be looking at around 17 of them. So that's 9 points for ballistic rifles, 5 points for energy rifles, 10 for machine gun, 8 for SRMs, 7 for LRMs, and 8 for flamers.
Okay, so
not nothing.
No, well that's right. Okay, well LRMs though is okay. It's only 7 damage, but that's potential 9 hex range.
Yeah,
that's quite nice.
And no minimum range.
No minimum range.
But I mean, personally, if I'm going to take like a troop and I'm not going to give them anything fancy, I'm just going to take standard weapons, I'm looking at either machine guns or ballistic rifles. To tell you the truth, they do the most damage. There are some things that like stand out, and I think that damage output is pretty good. They get the best modifiers, but you can only go out to about 3 hexes with a ballistic rifle, 6 hexes with an energy rifle, and 3 with a machine gun. And if you're not either right underneath the mech you're shooting or within 1 hex of it, then you're probably not going to hit. But if you are there, then you've got a solid chance to do some decent damage.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. They take a lot of damage if you use specific types of weapons against them and they're not in cover.
Yeah.
But because conventional infantry, the hexes are, it's 30 meters to a side, right?
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be 30 meters to a side, which is like, I worked it out at one point, it's 100 and something square meters. So they're spread out across that hex, right? So the burst fire weapons do some really serious amounts of damage to them, but other normal weapons, things that you would normally associate with huge amounts of damage, things like Act 20s, they'll kill 1 dude or 2 dudes.
Or 2 dudes.
Or 3 dudes, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
you get the right burst fire weapon in the right conditions, you can wipe out an entire platoon. But if you use an Act 20 and you don't do well, then you'll kill 1 or 2 dudes, and that's it.
Yeah. Which makes them quite resilient when you think about it.
Yeah. Right? If you have people, I think a few people have mentioned the fact that they regularly take machine guns out of their units or dump machine gun ammo. You know who you are.
It's most of us.
And yeah, if you're fighting against other mechs, then yeah, I get that. That is a thing. But if you have even a chance that someone's going to bring infantry to the party, a machine gun is solid gold.
Yeah.
Against those. I mean, there's on 216 with the other table, there's the non-infantry weapon damage against infantry table. They just get fancier and fancier.
They have their own table. It is a game of tables, let's face it, you know.
It is. But that tells you the number of troopers that you're going to wipe out with those types of weapons. So a direct fire, ballistic or energy weapon will kill a number of troopers equal to the damage value divided by 10. Which means your Act 20 is killing 2 guys.
Yeah.
2 guys out of 28. Right? And that takes them down to 26, which you're still doing 15 with a machine gun and 14 with a rifle. Right? So it's negligible. I mean, it's not cool for those 2 dudes, obviously. But
no. Keep in mind, though, that mechanized infantry, they take double the damage.
Yeah.
Because, again, they're on the buggies or whatever it is, so they're a bigger profile, a bigger target.
So this is for conventional infantry, just standard everyday troopers, and then the mechanized infantry will take double damage from this table. So the Act 20 in that case would do 4.
Yeah.
So the stuff like area effect weapons, damage value divided by a half.
Yeah, they double. Yeah, it's like,
burst fire weapons have their own specific thing. So AP gals do 2d6. Light machine guns 1d6. Machine guns, heavy machine guns, there's 2d6 and 3d6.
Yeah.
Smaller micro pulse lasers 2d6, and a flamer gets 4. 4d6.
Well, that makes sense, you know, because it's just horrible.
Nasty.
It's horrible.
It's horrible stuff. But yeah, you've got that table there that tells you what they are. So mechanized infantry, you double that. Damage done by 1 infantry unit to another always equals the standard weapon damage inflicted. Can't be reduced. So if you've got 1 rifle troop shooting at another rifle troop, they do their cluster thing, and then they have that number.
Yeah.
And you don't get to like halve it because it's direct fire ballistic. This is mech and vehicle versions of these weapons are the ones that are reduced. So infantry versus infantry, they do the same amount of damage.
But I still think if they're in open ground though, they'll still take double the damage because that's an infantry.
Yeah. So conventional infantry hit while in clear terrain suffer twice the normal damage.
Yeah.
Includes damage received from infantry and burst fire weapons as well as other non-conventional infantry mounted weapons, area effect weapons, and so on.
So a flamer, like a mech flamer or something, shooting out the open.
It's 4d6 and then you double
it. Oh man.
That's just so you got a bare minimum of 8 dudes dead. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
With a flamer. If you hit them in clear terrain. It's nasty. I don't think there's anything major with burst fire weapons. The die result for each hit to create a running total represents damage inflicted. Nope, that's it. So you just roll that damage and that's it. But they are very, very, very effective against all types of infantry, but specifically against conventional infantry in the open. But even if you have your infantry in cover, they're not safe from burst fire weapons. They're not safe from area effect weapons. What you want to do is go up against somebody who thinks that like the Fafnir is a good thing. Because or a hunchback. right? You go against the Hunchback. Your direct fire energy is divided by 10, but you always get... I'm pretty sure you always get 1.
Oh yeah, just if you could just get into the same hex as one of those.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you always get at least 1. So your medium laser as your base level weapon is damage value divided by 10. Right? So it's half, but I'm pretty sure you always round that to at least 1. The minimum is 1.
Yeah.
Right? So your laser goes across the thing, and you'll take 1 dude out. And his laser is doing 1, and his Act 20 is getting 2. So he's killing at most 3 dudes, assuming he hits.
Yeah.
So your Hunchback is not a happy boy. Pulse lasers do quite well. Damage value divided by 10 plus 2. So you're always getting 2 dudes, and then your damage divided by 10 could be anywhere from another 1 to another... What's a large clan pulse laser?
10.
10. Oh, crap, okay.
Yeah, it's like a fancy PPC.
Yeah, so that's 3. So the most you're getting with a pulse laser is 3.
But I think the small and micro pulse laser have they count extra damage in there. A lot of people are saying, all these mechs with like small pulse lasers on them and things like that. Why would you bother? And I said, that's why.
The small and micro pulse lasers get 2d6 against conventional infantry.
Yeah.
Rather than, that's 2d6 guys wiped out, not damage. It's guys wiped out, right? Basically, the pulse laser, the clan large pulse laser, which is everybody's favorite weapon apparently, only kills 3 guys.
Yeah.
Right? These get 2d6.
Yeah.
So it's anywhere from 2 to 12 guys wiped out.
Yeah.
And if you get them within range of a conventional infantry unit or a conventional infantry unit in clear terrain, my god, they're dead.
Yeah, that's it. That's right.
So they're not happy people.
So mechanized, getting back to the mechanized infantry side of things.
Yeah.
The way that they deal damage to infantry and how they take damage is quite interesting. So when they're shooting at conventional infantry, they double their damage. But when they get shot at by conventional infantry, they get basically armor, essentially. It takes 2 hits to get rid of one of them.
Yeah.
So that's probably... People usually take mechanized infantry to go after your normal conventional infantry, which they're everywhere,
Yeah.
But mechanized infantry are kind of cool. But they are quite... if normal units like tanks or whatever start firing at them, they tend to start dropping. But with their speed and everything, they're quite useful. Yeah. So that's what you use those to hunt down your conventional infantry units.
So if they get cornered by a mech or a vehicle, they take double damage.
Yeah.
But if they get shot by conventional infantry, they take half damage. It takes 2 points to knock out 1 dude. Yeah. So that's not bad.
That's pretty cool. That's useful. So just something to think about. They have their pros and cons. They have their speed, but if you're hunting standard conventional infantry and you've got a problem with them, that's what you want.
You've got the movement to be able to do it. You've got still a reasonable number of troopers. Yeah. And you've got the extra damage. You take a machine gun troop of dudes on wheeled, like little ATVs. Yeah. They've got a 3 ground movement. There's 24 guys. So 24 guys with machine guns do 13 points of damage.
Plus a 1d6.
Plus your 1d6. So you'd get your 13, your 24, roll your cluster table, you'd probably end up about 13 or 14 maybe. And then that's a 7 or an 8. And then you roll your 1d6 and add that on. And that's nasty. And then, They get shot back at, it's half, basically. Half. Yeah. That's cool.
That's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting.
I like that. I'm still buzzing over the stealth thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're going to have to be close enough to shoot a stealth unit, it's probably. I mean, I'm looking right at you, dude.
Yeah, that's true. I think. Look,
hopefully that wasn't too confusing.
There's
Is
a bit to it.
yeah, conventional infantry.
Especially when you're sort of trying to figure out how many dudes hit and things like that. You've got the extra table that you sort of roll on. But I think it's like anything. Once you've played a couple of games with them, you'll figure it out. You'll get a feel for it, and depending on what sort of terrain and everything you'll be playing on, you'll decide how to get them onto the field and things like that. But there's some potential damage there for cheap.
A lot, yeah, and they're very, very cheap.
Yeah,
it's single target. Get your number of dudes, check your modifiers, roll against the cluster table, and work out how much actual damage you've done, and then you split it into 2-point groupings.
Yeah,
and that is, it's like a little mobile SRM thing, really.
That's right.
And those rifles and machine guns are nothing to sneeze at. They're not no damage. You just have to get real close.
SRMs though,
they are good.
SRMs are nice.
They just don't do the same amount of damage.
No, but
they do more consistent damage, I think.
Well, they have, and they shoot out to 6 as well. So that's
they got better range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's good. It depends what you want them to do. What their purpose is, and they are quite versatile with the weapon choices that you've got there. Even just the basic stuff out of this book. Before we even talk about the other stuff, but that's
before you get into extras, and because you can technically give them like electronic systems and things like that, but bog standard dudes, you've got a range of different options there. In a city environment or a heavy cover environment, you've got huge amounts of damage, and if you can get them close enough, you're getting that huge amount of damage with a negative modifier.
Yeah,
and that's quality.
We did do some videos on buildings, and I think we did touch on infantry and how, because the building absorbs a certain amount of damage before it's applied, because you can't attack infantry that are in a building. You have to attack the building itself, and a percentage of the damage, depending on how strong it is then applied to the infantry inside.
Yeah.
So they, in a city environment, they've got a lot of protection there. Oh my gosh.
And if you make the mistake of getting to near a building where one of them's in, even just standard rifle ones, they're going to hurt you if you get close to that building.
Yeah. There's a lot of short stories and books or whatever where they go onto the second level of a building because, that's when the mech head walks past and that's where they want to shoot it. But that's,
What's the one I was reading a while ago, one of the ones that came with the Kickstarter, and the dude did the his trial of position against an elemental. One dude in an elemental suit and he was using a mech.
Oh my god! Well, I suppose that's what he's got.
And he just blew the building up. He just got sick of trying to dude down, so he just
about right.
Wiped the building out. It was great. That was the guy that he was bondsman, and he went, what's his name? Not Felon. Is it Felon Kell?
Felon Kell, when he went to, because he was taken over.
Yeah, no, it's somebody else. I don't know.
Anyway,
it was cool.
It was unforgettable.
Unforgettable. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So there we go. All right. So that's just
conventional.
That's conventional and mechanized infantry that we're going to talk about. So that's everything that we talked about. There is in the Total Warfare book. Different cover to the older one. But it's all in there. But I don't know. So far, it's been pretty good. We've talked about movement before. We were talking about how the weapons and that work and things like that. I can see a lot of potential for them.
They are pretty cool. We'll go over the battle armor next, I think.
I think so.
You'll see some even cooler stuff.
Yeah,
I reckon.
Yeah.
So
a lot of that changed, didn't it?
Yeah.
When they came on the field.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't forget to do all the subscribe and all that junk.
Yep. So I'd love to have you on board. Feel free to make comments if you've actually used infantry in your games. Just leave some comments there and just sort of let people know if you've got any tips and things like that. But yeah, like Tarron said, our next video we're going to talk about battle armor. That one I've sort of been waiting, like the protomechs, I'm going to get those out there. But battle armor, man, everyone really wants to know about those. So
Yeah,
that's very cool. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So hopefully you can join us. But thank you very much.
okay, guys.